I met him. He was probably around, 5 months old, and he was really sick and really small. He had been born at 25 weeks. So he had a tracheostomy, and he had a ventilator to help him breathe. He had a feeding tube. And then he was also weaning off a lot of, sedation medications that they had to keep him on when he was so little. So he was a grump. And that's kind of when I met him, he was just so grumpy. And then as he started to, wake up and get to be a baby a little bit more, I just remember his, when we'd finally make him smile, and he'd have the biggest dimples and the best brown eyes and long eyelashes.
This is the beginning of Gabriel's story, which is nothing short of incredible and easily worthy of being told. My name is Seth Carnell, and this is the Go Shout Love podcast. This month, we are talking to Scot and Stephanie, who are the parents to the always smiling, music-loving 5-year-old Gabriel. Gabriel has been diagnosed with cerebral palsy and has a number of challenges and therapies that come with that diagnosis. Scot and Stephanie are going to fill us in on all of that, but what they also talk about is how Gabriel initially came into their lives and how the dynamic of their family is forever changed by this wonderful little boy's journey through foster placement, and how that has led to including another very important family member, Gabriel's foster sister. There are many levels of inclusion layered throughout this entire conversation, and we are very excited to share that with you. As always, the beginning of this month, this is just part 1 of 2 episodes surrounding Gabriel. We will release part 2 next week, and you'll want to stay tuned for that. Leading this conversation is Josh Veach, one of the co-directors of Go Shout Love. Please take a second to rate or review this podcast on whatever platform you're listening on, and share it with a friend or family member so that Gabriel's story can be spread as far as possible. You'll want to also go online to goshout.love and check out this month's t-shirt. I promise you it is nothing short of incredible, and you'll want to take a look at that. And now, to get us started, here is Josh.
Well, Stephanie and Scot, welcome to the Go Shout Love podcast. It's so good to have you, and we're looking forward to talking with you and introducing the world to your kiddo. Welcome.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Well, I want to, we like to kick this off by first kind of giving our listeners and the Go Shout Love community an introduction to who your child is. So you have a little guy named Gabriel. And before we get into any of the elements of his story and anything medical, we just want to meet the kiddo. So tell us about Gabriel.
So Gabriel is 5.5 years old. He is the sweetest boy anyone's ever met. He has the best smile, the best personality. He loves music and playing his iPad. He loves his family. He loves to go out and explore, and he's just he's always happy. He's such a good, a go with the flow, happy kid.
And what would you say brings the biggest smile to his face?
Probably music.
Does he have any specific genres that he likes?
He likes, the nursery rhyme classics. He really likes ABCs. He likes Down by the Bay right now is a big favorite. He also likes this artist he listens to called Casper Baby Pants. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No, I'm going to have to look that up. Casper Baby Pants.
It's the fellow from the Presidents of the United States of America.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah.
It used to be a band, and then now he makes children's music. Yeah. But he's a big fan.
That's awesome. Quite the career shift there.
Yeah, definitely. So we're big fans of him, and he likes listening to metal. Scott's a big fan of metal, so he'll play him metal, and he actually really likes that a lot.
That's awesome.
Not just that, but many.
Yeah, rock.
Yeah, so well versed, a broad appreciation for the music, for the arts.
Definitely.
Awesome. That's cool. And other hobbies, what's he like to do?
He likes to spend time with his family. He likes to snuggle and watch TV. He's very particular about his likes. So we try really hard to get him to increase his list of shows that he'll tolerate. So he loves right now Sesame Street, and he loves Mickey Mouse. And recently he's gotten into Peppa Pig, which is huge that he is like enjoying a new show. So we always try to give him a little bit of time. Like with Disney movies, we'll say, okay, just 15 minutes, like just watch Monsters Inc. for 15 minutes. Like you're going to like it. And then he just looks at us with a side eye, like the whole 15 minutes. And, and we try really hard. I'm like, we can't just watch Mickey Mouse over and over and over. So the fact that he's now liking Peppa Pig is huge. And, but of course, like with his dad, he'll watch anything. It's just with me because he knows that like he can just look at me with a side eye and I'll change it. Whereas he just like, he'll be like more go with the flow with his dad. Okay. For me, he's more particular.
So it sounds like he's figured out he's figured out the system a little bit. And
he absolutely knows the system. Yeah. He has Gabriel has home nursing too. And we're always like, if he had a little bell to jingle for the nurses, like he would be calling them the whole time. And the whole time I'm telling him like, they're not here to at your beck and call to change the music station or to put on a different show. If you don't like he'll even not like certain parts of his Elmo movies, and he wants you to fast forward past them.
Yep.
And he knows that we know what he wants.
Right.
So we don't really, we end up like, okay, fine, we'll just do it.
Yeah. And everyone who has a child in the 5-year-old range right now is just nodding their head in agreement. Like, yes, this all sounds familiar.
Exactly. He is so opinionated, which is great. And it's great that he has that skill that he can absolutely tell us what he dislikes and what he likes. Yeah. But at school, they have a tough time because everything can't always be a preferred activity.
Right.
And he has no interest in doing things he's not interested in doing, which I think is, you're right, very typical of a 5-year-old.
Well, I want to flip that question just a little bit. So the first question was what makes him smile? And I want to have you each answer this. But so Scott, I'll start with you. To be Gabriel's dad, what about Gabriel brings the biggest smile to your face?
I think, the smile alone is enough, but I think just like everything about him, caring for him is just so rewarding. Just like the process of administering his meds and doing all that stuff, and just to see a smile on his face, knowing that I'm there to help him, is just gratifying in itself. Mm. So yeah, that's the primary thing. And then we my wife touched upon music and all those things. He loves long drives and motorcycles that go by. He laughs. I mean, to see him laugh or react to, whether it's a piece of music or something on the road is just, again, gratifying, knowing that, I'm putting a smile on his face. He's, feeling positive about something in a moment in time.
Yeah. Awesome. Mom, what about for you? What brings the smile for you?
The same thing, seeing him happy, seeing him enjoying life. I love when he enjoys things that aren't TV. And so I love when he just enjoys things naturally. Like if we're swimming and he enjoys splashing in the water, or like Scott said, fast cars at a car show. Like I love when he enjoys things that are new and novel, because he so often likes his routine and his things. So I love when we can get him out of sort of his routine and he really enjoys those things. That's great.
Yeah.
That
awesome.
Always makes me smile. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's back up to the early days, Gabriel's early days, and how he became part of your family. So you have a very unique coming together for you to become Gabriel's mom. So tell us about what that looked like.
Yeah. So I work as a nurse at a pediatric rehabilitation hospital just outside of Boston. And I started working there right after we got married. So October 2012. Or 15. Sorry. I'm like looking at my husband. So right after, so I started working there right after we got married in October 2015. And, which is funny enough, that's Gabriel's birthday. So he was actually born when we were on our honeymoon. So we always joke and say like, he's sort of a honeymoon baby, sort of. And so I met him. He was probably around, 5 months old, and he was really sick and really small. He had been born at 25 weeks. So he had a tracheostomy and he had a ventilator to help him breathe. He had a feeding tube. And then he was also weaning off a lot of, sedation medications that they had to keep him on when he was so little. So he was a grump. And that's kind of when I met him, he was just so grumpy. And then as he started to, wake up and get to be a baby a little bit more, I just remember his, when we'd finally make him smile and he'd have the biggest dimples and the best brown eyes and long eyelashes. And, I would get so excited when I would have him on my patient assignment that I got to hang out with him. And then I remember night shifts, rocking him next to his crib at night. And then, as he got older and got, a little bit stronger, we would sort of, my friends and I would flip flop. So if I had another kid and she had Gabriel, I would say, oh, can I do his tub and get him all dressed and ready for the day? And you can do one of my patients. So we used to do that all the time. And then Christmas, I remember buying him presents and buying him some nice pajamas for Christmas. And that was really, he was just over a year old at that point. And I remember being home with my family on Christmas Day, kind of wishing that he could have just come out for the day. Thinking, couldn't he just come for Christmas dinner and see all my cousins and have a great Christmas Day with us as a family? Just thinking our family has so much love to give and that he would have loved to be able to get out for the day. And then it wasn't long after that he ended up needing a home. So it sort of first was I'd fallen in love with him as a patient. And then it kind of came oh, well, actually he does need a home. Are you really interested? Are you really interested? Or have you just been talking about this for the last year? And so then that's when I reached out, my husband and I talked long about what that would look like.
Yeah. For how long was he then in the hospital? From birth through how long?
From birth until he was 18 months when we took him home.
Wow.
So he'd never been home.
Wow. And so what had you guys considered fostering or adoption up to that point? Or was this this was just a situation that was unexpected that sparked these conversations?
It was really just him. It was really just Gabriel. And the fact that I wanted to give this, we wanted to give this specific child a life outside the hospital and really I could see so much potential in him, and that he really would benefit so much from just being in a home environment. So like I said, we had just gotten married. So we hadn't even really started talking about having kids of our own at all. I think we both knew that adoption or foster care was something that we would potentially be interested in the future. And I would always thought that it would be sort of alongside like our biological children, and that it would kind of be like, I'd always had a dream, of having a bigger family and sort of having a mix of, biological children and foster children and adoptive children. And he just kind of came first.
Yeah.
And so, and initially we thought that it would be temporary, a temporary measure sort of to get him out of the hospital, maybe to give him a period of stability with his health, and ultimately that he would return to his biological family. And that ended up not being the case. But initially we sort of went into it as we just want the best for him. And the best for him right now is to not be in the hospital.
Right. So it started as a foster relationship then, or outside of the hospital at least. Yeah.
Yeah. So it started as just, he was our foster, like a child specific foster placement. So we couldn't take in any other children. It was just, we were specifically licensed just for Gabriel.
Got it. Well, so this is an interesting dynamic because Stephanie, you have this 1.5 year relationship in your work environment that you get to meet and grow with Gabriel. But Scott, you didn't have that same past that for that 1.5 years. So what was it like for you to go through that season and know that your wife is talking about this patient and really just loving this child, and then to the point where she's saying, "Hey, I think we need to open our home." How did you process that, and when did you get to meet Gabriel?
So I mean, I believe it was, trying to remember the time frame, was like at the end of 2016 we started talking about him.
Talk louder.
Yeah, 2016 we started, like, my wife started telling me about him and his condition and all that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then after the first of the year, we really, in 2017, we really like looked into possibly taking him home. And so it really came down to like just meeting him in the hospital and training on his care. And I fell in love with him pretty fast. He was just this, I mean, half the size he is now. He was just so small and cute. And, just even then learning the process of his care, like I just felt like, he was so alone and just needed all the care in the world. And I was willing to, assist with that. And, it's just been really, like I said, rewarding before, but, I went did some on campus training and learning his care. And it's just so rewarding.
Yeah.
So rewarding.
Did it change your perspective of the role that Stephanie has and who she cares for on a regular basis and the respect in that position?
Absolutely. You definitely like see it through someone else's eyes of like, these are such precious children that, can go through anything medically or abandonment, and you just want the best for them. And so I just couldn't help but just want to, help him and give him the best life possible,
Yeah. Awesome. And so, he was placed with you guys in the spring of 2017. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And then, you were able to officially adopt him?
Well, that was a long drawn out process. It was definitely a long drawn out process that lasted till February 2020. We were willing to be patient with the process, but there were some tough times, some hurdles that we had to get through.
Sure.
But we got through it, and
He's ours.
He's ours.
Yeah.
I mean,
Officially. Yeah.
It's wonderful.
That's awesome. Well, I want to shift just a little bit because I know for, Gabriel's at 5, he's right at this like kindergarten age, this, kind of where does education fit in? And, we know from talking with other families that processing education options and finding the right fit can be challenging. There's a lot of extra things to weigh for families with kids on a rare medical journey. And so I'm curious, how have you guys navigated that journey of trying to decide what's what's best for education standpoint and where to go with that for Gabriel?
Sure. So, when Gabriel was coming up on 3 years old, his early intervention team started to talk about preschool. And at that point, our focus and really our priority was his health. So he had a really critical airway. And he has and still has really severe lung disease. So really our priority with schooling was a place that he could be safe, most importantly, and then also get the experience of preschool. So he started at a preschool program close to where we lived at the time. That was an integrated preschool. So it had typical peers, preschool age children in the classroom alongside kids with disabilities of varying needs. Some kids in wheelchairs, some kids who walked but were nonverbal, some kids with, hearing impairments, etc. And it was an awesome experience having the peer models. It was fun to have be invited to birthday parties of the kids in the class and to do like Valentine's and Secret Santa and things like that with the typical peers. And it felt like a typical preschool experience. And we knew that he would stay there through preschool. And then as things got closer to, coming up on kindergarten, it also fell into the pandemic, which has been horrible for everybody. And I know everyone who has kids in school, it's like you can't make the right decision and it's so hard. And then for kids who have any disability, it really just adds like a whole other layer or he was home for we pulled him out before schools shut down. So we pulled him out probably in February. Right when we kind of saw that things were getting bad. Right. And up in Boston,
right after we adopted him. So up in Boston, the kind of outbreaks happened, I feel like sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And so we pulled him out of school and we were doing some Zoom calls with the preschool and then trying to do some Zoom therapies, which was just, horrible for everybody. Sure. We had his physical therapist holding up a doll to show us how to put his body while we're both trying to work from home and chase around his foster sister who was just a year old at that point. So it was not working out well. So we did that for a year, probably just about a year. And then as school started opening up again, they just weren't really, the school that we were in just really wasn't able to meet his needs, both medically in regards to the pandemic and where he needed in-person learning that was going to be safe enough for him to attend it, which is a hard balance to find. And so we ended up having to find a new school for him during the pandemic that could meet his IEP. And so we did that at the end of last year. He started his new school in April. And so far that's going great. Is not easy. It was a really difficult process.
It was just everything was a transition, and we just had to be patient with paperwork and meetings and interviews, which is all part of the process.
Yep.
Yeah. And one of the things we discussed that was important to me was, eventually thinking about having him mainstreamed into the town school that in our town. And that's something that is sort of, it's hard. I think it's kind of a personal, as much as I want him to be included in in the typical school in our town. And I want the kids to know him in the town, and I want him to experience inclusion. And I think that's so important for, the teachers and for the students and for everybody to to get to know Gabriel and to see like, okay, we can do this in the town, that he doesn't have to go to a special school. Like he could just be here in the town. And I felt like that was important to me. But my husband Scott felt very strongly that he really needed to be in a school that was built for him, with people who knew how to take care of him and knew how to meet his needs without sort of like spelling everything out step by step. Like they'd already done this. Like we didn't need to reinvent the wheel. They know how to take care of, kids with disabilities and kids with his like learning needs.
Right.
And so he's in a school now that is, just for students with disabilities, and we really love it. And it's
fantastic.
It's school. Fantastic. And
fantastic.
And
wonderful school. Everyone's so accommodating. They've let me work from home remotely from the school. They set me up with an office there while I was going there on Thursdays to when we didn't have a nurse on Thursdays to accompany him and take care of him and change him and whatnot. So it's been so wonderful to have that set up. I mean, can't ask for a better coordination process.
Yeah. Well, I think what's cool about this conversation is that it points to how specific and personal decisions like this have to be, that not every kid needs the exact same thing at the exact same time. Like, this is what was best for Gabriel right now, but there might come a time where his needs shift a little bit, or the opportunity to be in that other environment becomes a greater priority because other things, happen, or, there's less need on certain day-to-day things or whatever the case is. And I think it's cool that you guys as a couple talked through those things, recognized, is my motive here mine? And is my motive here more about his future, or is my motive right now about what he needs right now? And kind of bounce those things off of each other to land on, this is what's best for Gabriel in this moment. And then we'll kind of see where things go in the future.
Exactly. That's exactly how we feel. Like, I would love for him to be in a public school and have like everybody learn how to meet his needs, right? And be able to say, he's totally inclusive, but the amount of work that goes into that, and goes into just getting there with a school, I'm like, who am I doing this for, right? Like, am I doing this to pave the way for the next student with disabilities who comes up in our town who's going to need a placement? Like, we would have made the groundwork for them, and we would have, taught the school so much that they would be able to help, the next kid that comes through, right. Which I felt was so important, would be an important, role to play, but like potentially, I guess, at his expense,
right?
Because he would be with people who, potentially don't know the ins and outs of his condition, or who don't know how to do his bracing. Like, his school has therapists who have been doing this for, X amount of years with kids who are very similar to him. So we know that really he's in really the best hands, and that's right now what is most important. Yeah. And I feel like is to give him potential for, the most, independent and the most skills he can sort of learn at this point.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. That's cool that you guys kind of work through that together. And I think it's a great model, for those listening that might find themselves in a similar position to recognize that, you kind of make these decisions based on what's best right now. And that doesn't mean it will always be what's best, but, you kind of go with what you know and what is the best thing right now and go with it.
In case you aren't aware or familiar with Go Shout Love, we do amazing things for amazing families with kids on rare medical journeys. Each month, we shout love for families through the sale of creative apparel inspired by these kiddos. This month's A Smile is Music for the Soul design is inspired by Gabriel, a happy, charming, and music-loving 5-year-old from Massachusetts. Every purchase in October will be used to help cover the cost of intensive therapies for Gabriel that are not covered by insurance. Visit our website, goshout.love, to support Gabriel through the purchase of a t-shirt, sweater, hoodie, tumbler, or other items. You can also start a subscription and shout love every month for our feature family. Remember, this is only part 1. Part 2 will be released very soon, and you will not want to miss that. Thank you for listening, and as always, please go shout love.